Why should you develop your team? And what about those teammates who are disengaged? We're going to answer those questions in today's episode. Hello, my name is Z.
And I'm Rich. So it's been a while since I've seen you, Z.
It has been, right? It's been usually when we're doing these recordings, we're ahead of schedule. This time we're kind of like in the cusp, man. We got to get these episodes every 2 weeks. I've been gone in Thayer, for a week. Enjoyed New York City. Got to be, part of the historic West Point Academy in the Thayer leadership group for the week with our leaders. And then since I've been back, man, it's been nonstop action, man. So yeah, dude, did you miss me?
Yeah, I did. I did miss you. And I saw a lot of great footage from your LinkedIn. It was amazing. Saw some physical training.
Yeah, and by the way, just to clarify, it wasn't me doing all the. I was in the camera watching all of our leaders do all the PT and urban orienteering. It's a lot of these exercises and things they did. It was good. I got a lot of good footage, and also more importantly, though, I got to see our leaders really connect the dots, and everything that we've been teaching them around leadership was put into practice, and they just had this light bulbs go up like crazy, and they're hungry. I mean, they came back and they're now talking to their teammates about it. We have our 30-day follow-up coming soon, so I can't wait to see what they've applied.
It's great. Yeah, that's amazing. You just definitely want to see how they apply it and taking those skills from the training and putting them into action.
I think that's the biggest thing, right? When you go through training or any kind of development, you get excited, it's fresh, you're ready to take on the world and conquer the world. But the question is, you have to apply it right away because you're going to forget it. You're going to fall in old habits. And more importantly, right, this is part of, developing trust with not only us as inside in a leadership group, that they trust us that we're not going to put them in harm's way with the PT and be like, oh my gosh, I just got hurt. Hey, we understand everybody has different development levels, not only in their knowledge, but also their physical abilities. So we had to make a couple adjustments and totally fine, but just get active. And they had to trust us with that, man. That was cool.
Yeah, that trust. Speaking of trust, that was our last episode. If you missed that, go back and tune into that, building and maintaining trust. But they had to put a lot of trust in you to make sure that, you didn't overexert them on the physical training or, have them go through all-out military style training.
Well, yeah, they had to trust that I was giving them the right information. I wasn't going to, tell them something and all of a sudden it was something else, because that would have been a disaster, right? But no, I mean, I think that overall, that is a great example of developing your team, and we're developing our team and our leadership, both our executive and directors, to bring these skill sets and give our teammates leaders worth following. And the cool thing is that when I was there, I was able to capture some audio and interview a couple of our leaders about their thoughts on today's topic, which is around developing your team. So we're going to be listening to a few of those, and then we'll unpack them a little bit, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Are you ready?
I am.
All right, let's do it. So the first recording we have, or I interviewed, was Gonzalo Herrera. He is one of our directors of finance in EMEA in Europe. Specifically, he's in Spain. I like how you'll hear his accent here in a second. But Gonzalo does a good job. And the first question that I asked is, okay, why should you develop your team? What's developing your team? And I think a lot of you probably already know the answer to that, because, you individually want and want to be developed and want to develop yourself. But let's listen to his response, and we'll talk about it. And I'll even talk about some of the other responses because they're very similar. So let's go ahead and hear Gonzalo.
Well, the first thing is that I consider developing the team is my mission. I do consider is my mission because it's what really drives me. So in the moment of my career that I am at, what really moves me, motivates me, drives me, is what I leave behind. So, that's my philosophy about leadership. It's you have a responsibility, a tremendous responsibility, to create leaders. And when I say tremendous, is because I'm dealing with a lot of young, hungered talents, and it is the moment where you are creating the foundation of what they will be in the future. To me, I've reflected about this, and I feel a huge responsibility in that aspect.
All right, so that's Gonzalo right there. Again, super passionate in what I love when he kicked off for, right? That is my mission, right? That is my purpose. That is what I do as a leader. And it was very similar with the other leaders that I talked to. As soon as I talk about development, like, well, that's my job. That's my responsibility. The word responsibility kept coming up. So first thing that stood out to me, yeah, I mean, think about that. When we talked about leadership before, am I a leader? If you are a leader, if you're going to invest in your team. So that's the first thing that stood out to me. And again, it resonated throughout the various conversations I had with several of the leaders. What did you get?
Yeah, same aspect. You know, he right off the bat he jumped in and said it was his mission, and almost right after that said it was his responsibility. So you can tell he takes this. You know, it's a personal aspect, right? Being in that leadership role means something to him, and what he's doing with that, developing leaders, that's his purpose. That's why he became a leader. Sounds like.
Yeah. Again, he knows that he had his responsibility to. He even mentioned, right, the next generation that's coming in. Funny enough, we have currently, right now it's summertime, so we have a lot of interns that are joining us here at Inside, and it's been amazing seeing their passion and their hunger. You mentioned hunger as well, to learn, to be engaged, to participate in the trainings that we're giving them, but also in the projects and things that we're working on. So yeah, it's that next wave of talent that's coming in. Is let's capitalize on that hunger, right? That ambition to just be really good at what they do, and it's our responsibility to get them there.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to that effect, you want to continue to keep that hunger, as you mentioned. You know, if these individuals are coming in hungry, it's the leader's responsibility to keep motivating and keep driving them to keep going to achieve that leadership level of, either motivation or wanting to get to that next step in their career.
Yeah. And again, I love the tying in with the last episode. They're going to build that trust with you as a leader, not only with you as a leader, but also going to build that trust with the organization that, hey, my organization is investing in me. Right. So you kind of just have there's a leader that invests in you. That's great. But what if you move to another team and that leader does not invest? That's going to be a shock, right? They're going to be like, what's going on? Why is it that I was working for this department or this leader? They had conversations with me about my development, where I'm at, how am I doing? What can I do to get there? What's my next step? All these things, right? That makes us and skill us up. But then I go to a new team and a new leader and they don't do that. Oh, that loss with that new leader is going to be diminished. But then also think about the organization as a whole. Like, hey, there's inconsistencies here, right? Like, we owe it to our team to be consistent across the board and making sure that we're living by our values, by what we preach, right? So, speaking of that, tell me your journey about your development. I mean, have you had examples where you had leaders that did invest and then some that didn't?
Yeah, I mean, coming not in the inside organization, but prior organizations that I've worked for, we've I've done our we call them one-on-ones here, our connection meetings. We'll go in and we'll ask the questions and everything will be or seem that it's on track. And then when it comes time to the competency reviews, it's sort of a letdown. You don't score as high as you want to, or as you were thinking. You have these meetings. It just seems like you're off track or off base. And from there, it's like, well, where was the misstep? Where did we get off base? Where did we not communicate? Now, moving into Insight, these one-on-one meetings are amazing because you always know there's always that constant communication. Your leaders always asking you, what is it that I can help you with, which is extremely important.
It's like night and day, right? When you go, and it's one of the things that you notice about cultures in organizations, a culture that is a learning culture, right, really takes development to heart. And it's one thing talking about it, and one thing is actually doing it, right? And this goes back to what we talked about in regarding leadership. Do we see leadership in action? Do we see trust in action? And not just talking about it. And I just think it goes full circle. So again, it was really cool, very consistent. A lot of them said, this is my responsibility, is my mission, is what I do. Gonzalo even mentioned that's my legacy, meaning that the way I took it is that he is developing leaders for the future. Right? People to teammates or teammates to come in and develop them and take his role eventually, right? Getting them ready for that next opportunity and not seeing it as a threat, but as an opportunity to grow and develop the next leader at Insight, which is awesome. So the next question, what's the next question we asked our leaders?
So the next question is, what are effective methods to developing your team?
Yeah, so some of the best practices and things like that. And then we interviewed two more directors here.
Yes, Deb Murphy and Letta Kerr.
Let occur. Yeah. So again, love these two leaders. The reason why I reached out to them because those are two leaders that constantly reach out to me about developing their team. Always doing something with them every year as a whole, but also individually. So let's listen to, I think first is Deb Murphy, who is a global PMO, in charge of our global PMO. And then we're going to listen to Letta, who is a director of product management. So let's take a look.
Well, again, conversations, understanding what they want to do, because if the teammate isn't passionate about something, you're not going to get your best from them. So you have to understand, what do they want to do, and then you share with them honestly what it's going to take for them to get where they really want to be, and you help them get there. You help them find the ways to develop that muscle and that skill set.
It's really time commitment. With so many different things, it's really, we do day in, day out. I mean, it's a chaos. And you gotta be very intentional about it. And as what we do, we travel a lot. We do have a lot of meetings and stuff like that. But again, just like what I said to every single one of my teammates, you are my priority, and you need to be very intentional about that.
What Deb jumped into about, keeping that fire and identifying, why teammates might be disengaged. That's extremely key, and to hone in on that and to, just try to understand to see how can you reignite that? How do we get these teammates engaged?
Yeah, and it's a lot of times it's as simple as getting to know them, asking them questions. What do they need? What do they need to develop? It's easier said than done. I think we all know that. Hey, just have a conversation with your team. How are you doing? What are your gaps in your learning? What are your strengths? But what are your areas of opportunity or growth? Then from there, come up with a plan, right? Like work together and figure out, okay, what do we have available for us? So best practices, number one, is make that part of your conversations in your one-on-ones or connection meetings. If you're just focusing on getting right to business, what's an update, status update, give me your sales numbers, KPIs, all this stuff. It's like, okay, I understand. You have to get updated as part of management, right? I have to manage the results, manage my team through those. But a part of that too, and this is where the leadership kicks in, is, okay, I see you're struggling in this area. Let's develop you in this area. Or I see that you're interested in learning more about this and you're looking at a different path or a different opportunity. What are the skills and things that you need to get you ready for that opportunity? I mean, the list goes on, but just make it part of your meetings, because I'll tell you right now, if you're a fly in the wall and you listen to these conversations with the manager and their team, and it's all about business, that means that the team is going to start to be disengaged and feeling like all I'm here is to crunch numbers, do my job, and that's it. So that's the first number one thing for sure, standing out, and that's where you can identify disengaged teammates, which is the next question. But Letta followed up with a good as well. What did you capture from her?
Yeah, from her, essentially just, making sure that it's along the same line. We're finding these common themes, like it's her responsibility. Really take time to put into your teammates, to develop them, to help them get to that next level.
Yeah, like she said, it needs to be intentional, right? We get so busy, and if I hear anybody say, "Oh, I have so much time in the world. I don't know what to do with myself sometimes." It's rare, dude. Everybody, the first thing that comes out of everybody's mouth, right, is like, "Oh, I'm busy. I have a lot going on," and it's like, welcome to the world of business. Welcome to the world, right? But we get so caught up in getting busy and doing things that we don't make it intentional and make that part of our conversations. Make it part of what I need to do as a leader, is whatever that is, right? I'm responsible for meeting numbers, getting things done. And a lot of times we think we're there to put out fires. We'll talk about that in another episode. Is firefighting should not be what a leader does all the time, and it should be very minimal or start to get condensed. You should be more strategic, more intentional, which I love that she brought that up, because we have to be intentional when it comes to our teammates' development. Come up with a strategy, come up with something. So that's another tip, right? Tip number 2 that we got out there is be intentional. First, make it part of your conversations. The next one is be intentional. I think a third one is that when you're having these conversations, it's a lot. The first thing, let me ask you this question. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about development? Hey, I have a development plan for you to develop you, or let's come up with that. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about development? What are you going to develop, or what does that look like?
Well, for me, I get excited, but I can understand how people can see that and say, oh, there's a gap in my skill set. What do I need to close? How do I need to get better?
Yeah. So you, from the context coming into this, you're looking at it as a positive context. It's like, yeah, I'm going to get better, upskill. But you're right. If you don't clearly, as a leader, have this meeting, be like, all right, hey, Rich, we're going to talk about your development here real quick. There's some areas and gaps that I see that you're struggling in that you need to improve on. So let's come up with a plan. A little too serious. Maybe you're like, what did I do wrong? I mean, those type of things. But if you say, hey, Rich, my job as a leader is to help you grow and get you and improve your skill set. So let's partner together and come up with a plan to help you get there. Right? So what are some areas that you want to work on? Right? Think about your approach. Take a few minutes before you have these conversations, right? To kind of, how am I going to propose this, or how am I going to say this without coming across, like you said, as, oh my gosh, there's a gap in my ability. I'm probably going to be in trouble or replaced, or thinking the worst case, right? Also, maybe what you're thinking too is, oh, do I have to go to a course? Do I have to, invest money in going and getting a certification? And what's the first thing that comes to mind when you have to go to school again and get a certification? What comes to your mind when you think about that?
I mean, I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this. I am excited, but it's work. It's a lot of work. It's time. It's, oh man, this is going to be a ton of work. What does this entail?
Here's the other question though. Yes, you're on the right track. It's gonna take time, effort. It's gonna be work. But if you're gonna pay for it, you start to go, oh, how much is this gonna cost? You start to go, is there, especially when you think about, like, if you have a budget, right? Whose budget? What do I have the budget for it? So, first of all, if your organization has that and can allocate funds, please allocate funds for development for your team and departments, depending on what's available and what's not, right? But there are a lot of free options out there too, right? And that's where you have to be creative. Be strategic, think outside the box, and make it a conversation between the two of you instead of you just deciding what it is. Kind of brainstorm. So when you think about what would be some, like, let's say free alternatives out there for development, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, you can reach out and obtain a mentor. You can, ask somebody who's in that position that you're striving for. You can, read books. There are a lot of free resources out there as well.
Yeah.
It's not all just on the paid aspect. And shameless plug here, Insight, we have amazing leadership programs. So if you didn't know about those, please check those out.
Yeah. Thank you. Way to plug that in, man. Good job. I'll send you the bill. But again, you just came up with a handful already, right? Go read a book, podcast. Hey, right here, it's development opportunity. Listen to listen to these episodes, audiobooks. Read a book if whatever you prefer, right? Your method. Learn from a mentor, 100%. One of the plans that we recommend is called the 70-20-10 plan. And so 70-20-10 is a percentage of time you're going to invest in something. So 70% should be invested in doing. What am I going to do? Actually do. Put my hands in it, feel it, understand it, work through it. That's going to help me build my skill set. So you mentioned, go with the mentor and stuff, but more importantly, doing the role, like doing a stretch assignment. This is a stretch assignment. We're not... even though you may think we're getting paid to be podcasters at Insight, no, we're not. We're working on it. But this is a stretch assignment. This is a passion project, right? Find those projects out there. We have teammate resource groups, which a lot of organizations have ERGs. Teammate resource groups. We call them here at Insight, and be involved with that. Be part of the committee. Help, volunteer, help out. There's other things that just be creative, find those stretches, but doing, right? Getting your hands in there. 20% should be through others. You mentioned mentor, finding a mentorship program, whether it's formal or informal, just reach out. This is how this got started. Rich reached out, man, and then here we are today. We have a table, we have a podcast room. What is going on in this world? And 10% should be formal, and that is where, yes, reading a book, looking up inside, your intranet site or internal web-based trainings. We use Percipio here, but there's a lot of different platforms out there, right? What resources are available internal that I can take advantage of? And my team, we're responsible for a lot of the leadership training and programs, but also the teammate development programs that can upskill you. So a lot of great opportunities. So that's another tip. Find your resources. What does your organization have? Use them. What don't they have? Let's create them, right? So, dude, there's no excuses. Get it done, leaders. Get it done. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that was great. I'm taking down notes on the side, so.
You could tell I was a little pumped there. I was getting all like, oh. All right, let's go to our last question. The last one is, okay, but realistically, there are going to be disengaged leaders, teammates, even leaders. How do we develop them? Should we develop them? So I asked Jenny Vallis. She's a director of inside sales and commercial, but we're also going to get Gonzalo back to close us out with a very important thing. Here we go.
I think we'll always have teammates who are disengaged. And I don't think that that is a indicator of our success as a team or as a leader. Although I do think it is something we should be hyper aware of in order to figure out why. Usually the reason people are disengaged is because they don't feel a connection to their work or they don't feel valued. And those things are sort of related to a certain extent. We all have a fulfillment lever somewhere in us. For some people, it is identifying, daily that they're contributing to the good of the whole. So in that situation, it's important to figure out how to translate that to their day-to-day task and activity. For other people, they need to be on the creative end of it. So seeking out ways to engage them creatively to, move the organization or the business forward.
Obviously, first thing that comes to my mind is that everybody needs a second chance. The other sentiment that comes to my mind is that all of us can shine, but maybe we're not in the right moment and in the right place to shine. So as important as to create a team is to know when to not having a member in your team. And if that disengagement is not recoverable, is the difficult decision is to decide when is the moment for that teammate not to be part of the team.
All right. Well, there you go. Right. So I love this. Right. Jenny Vallis went right to it. Said that it's going to happen. Fortunately, we're dealing with human beings. There's going to be situations and times when we have disengaged teammates, and it's not an indicator. It's not 100% indicator that it's your fault. Right? Can it be? Yes. Right. You're not giving them the development, the opportunity. You're not making it part of your conversations, all these things. Yes, 100%. But if you're doing what you need to do as a leader and you're providing these opportunities and things like that, and the teammate still gets disengaged, it could be other factors, right? So throwing it to you, man, what could that be? What are some, because there's a lot of factors, right?
Yeah, and it's sort of just going back to what Jenny was saying about that fulfillment lever, right? And maybe that's it. You do your job and you're great at it, but it doesn't fulfill you. It doesn't keep you motivated. It's not why you wake up in the morning.
Oh, I love that example because that is so true, right? There are moments, even when you find the most passionate person, I could think of a few in this room, there are going to be moments when we wake up and we're just not feeling that excitement, that energy. It's going to happen. We're human beings, right? And there's so many factors. Could be something in your life that's happened, personal, professional, whatever, that we have to understand and go, okay, not everybody's going to be firing at all cylinders all the time. There's going to be a little bit of disconnection. But as a leader, again, it's our job to stay fully aware and being present and just constantly seeking out and paying attention when a teammate's off pattern or off rhythm. It's like, wait a minute, this is not typical of Rich to not respond, right? Wait a minute, Rich hasn't, reached out to me or something's off. And I just start that in a conversation. Hey, is everything okay? I noticed things have been changing a little bit, or this is what's happening. Understanding where that's coming from. And if it's something that you can help or within your control, help out. If it's something external, Well, again, seeing what they can do to work through that, give them the time and space, and then work through that, right? But Gonzalo came in with the next step. You can only do so much for our teammates, right? There's a moment in time where it's just not the right fit or the right time for a teammate. But he said, I love the second chance, so you have to make sure you do everything you can for that teammate. So what were your thoughts when you jumped into that?
Yeah, so I really like that he led with the empathy. Everybody deserves a second
Yeah.
chance. That's amazing. Obviously you want to connect, you want to see what's going on. Maybe something at home is going on and you need to understand that. And then, identify that, or if not, then maybe, it not, as he mentioned, not right place, not right time. So,
Yeah, to your point, he could have just like, nope, get rid of them. They're not this. They're not engaged right now. They're not. But no, it's like we understand the human element. Everybody deserves a second chance. Provide them that, but we can only give them so many opportunities, right? And that's where it's funny. I get this asked all the time in our trainings and from leaders. When is the right time to then move on to the next phase, which is now talking about performance improvement, and things like that. Well, again, did you do everything you needed to as a leader? Are you doing what you need to as a leader? And then once you've given those opportunities, that second chance, maybe a third, depending on the, on what they did, right? Then making that next move to the next thing. And funny enough, I've heard different stories from leaders, and I love talking to leaders all the time, managers, that there are tons of stories where leaders have said, "Hey, yeah, I had to make that call, work through that plan. Eventually, it didn't work out, and they moved on to a different role." But then they've had that same teammate encounters, where they meet them at a grocery store or somewhere else, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, they're gonna be mad because I'm the one that let them go, or they're not part of the team. A lot of them have come to them and even said, hey, thank you for that. I just wasn't in the right time, in the right place. I needed a different view. I'm doing something I really love now, and that sometimes happens. Yeah, so. I think that's a good way to wrap up today's session. Hey, it's like disengaged team is you still have to do everything you can, address it, find out what is it that's going on, and then see if you can help out of something within your control. And eventually, over time, if it continues, it's time to part ways. It's time to make to the next move. Then there's another topic for another day.
yeah. So today we talked about why you should develop your team. What are some effective ways to do that? And also how to develop disengaged teammates. Is there anything else I missed?
No, I think you summarized it just well. Again, those are we gave you some great tips. It's going to take practice. You know what? Start implementing the 7-20-10 plan in your leadership as well. Put into practice. Try some of these things out. Put them into place. 20%. Find mentors. Listen to others. Schedule calls with thought leaders as well, and learn from them. And that 10%. Formal training development are going to set you up for success. Quick little tip, though. I got to give a shout out to Rich. He actually had his first live session on LinkedIn Live the other day. Awesome job, my friend. You did awesome, good, and I think we're probably going to see more of you here coming soon.
Thank you. It was a very fun time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our content and engage with us. We want to know your feedback. It's very important to us.